Okay.
All right. Hey, everybody. How you doing? This is True Powers Mind, SR Live. Hey, I got Judge Joe Brown on the phone today. I want to talk about the abortion situation here in the great state of Missouri. Judge, you're still there?
I'm here.
All righty. So I was just asking you, did you have any comment about the unprecedented steps the state of Missouri is taking concerning abortion?
Well, it's developing around the country in certain areas that are pro-life, conservatives, right-wing, etc. And what they're trying to do is manufacture the situation where Roe v. Wade has to be revisited by the U.S. Supreme Court. They think that with the two new appointees to the Supreme Court, they have a chance of getting Roe v. Wade either abolished or severely constrained. Frankly, I think if you are for maintaining a woman's right to control her body, you'd be more circumspect about Obama's not right wing, to, what shall I say? Let's be candid, lesbian feminist appointments who are Catholic to the Supreme Court than I would about Trump's appointees, quite frankly. But there's been a precedent for half a century, almost. And I don't think it's going to be overturned. There might be some modifications or some constraints put on it. But this whole thing you're seeing is just a move to force the Supreme Court to readdress Roe v. Wade.
Well, the next question would be, then, Judge, if they can take back or roll back women's right or women's legislations on the book, could they potentially do that to other minority groups?
You see, here's the thing I have told people over and over and over again. When you put yourself in a position where you have to depend on somebody giving you something rather than you compelling the surrender or the acknowledgement of that something, then you are always in jeopardy of the people that gave it to you taking it back from you.
Wow.
In other words, if you are a cow and you kick the damn barn door down and get out, that's different than the farmer letting you out.
Exactly, because he's going to let you out only in a plastic wrapper as stakes.
Yeah. Now, you see, there are various ways we can accomplish this. We can't stage a civil war. That wouldn't happen. Not many of us would go along with it. And the likelihood of prevailing with something like that is next to none.
Right.
But we can cause a lot of difficulties, and that kind of difficulty can be very persuasive. In the mid-'60s, we did damage to the central city areas of a number of large cities that were comparable to what the Army Air Force was doing to Nazi Germany in World War II. That got people's attention. We can get ugly, and that happened in the 60s too, when people started saying, hell no, we're not going to allow this kind of police brutality in our areas. And you got such developments as the original Panther Party, student unions, and citizens who militantly patrolled their areas and said, we're not going to take it.
Right.
You can vote effectively, and you can always establish an election boycott and just embarrass those who have taken your votes for granted. I don't think in the long term it's going to hurt us if we sit out one election and just go screw yourself. Let's see how you like it when we aren't around. That gets attention. People keep saying, well, we have to vote for the lesser of two evils. I think it's time to stop voting for the lesser of two evils and have something to vote for on a positive note.
Yes.
We have been caught up in the Democratic Party plantation, the big house, for too long in terms of our leadership, and they're trying to be bed wenches or bed boys so they can service the rainbow tinted characters that pass off as leadership for the Democratic Party, which has a feminist institution, actually. The leadership of the Democratic Party has passed over to the women. And I'm sorry, but the ladies just aren't into the hardcore rationality, logic, reason, and discernment that is part of the masculine principle that they have so assiduously wiped off of the slate. Now, we need balance. We have shifted over into a political process that fosters emotion, whim, unthought out, unanalyzed things that are feel good things rather than important things. When we start neglecting our physical condition, our future circumstances for emotive elation, we are going wrong. When we have gotten ourselves into a situation where we are more in love with our privileges than we are concerned about maintaining our rights, then we are going wrong. And something's got to happen with the current political environment so that it comes back to a reality perspective. In other words, we have been captured by people who have a right to use the political process to get what they want.
Yep.
But for the rest of us, that political process has come to be something that is corrupted the reality of our circumstances here on earth. It is a thing that exists in a bubble of transient safety. And we've got Betelgeuse or Beetlejuice, depending upon how you say it, a massive, supermassive red star in the neighborhood that could go supernova at any point. It may have already done that, and in the several light years between that point when the radiation arrives here to fry everything on the planet, you wouldn't know about it, but it could be on the way. There are asteroids, comets, and we could go to the way of the dinosaur.
What about the potentiality of eugenics? I mean, eugenics with mechanized efficiency.
Oh, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a matter of political control, who controls it. You have here, we keep thinking as ex-slaves about our ex-masters, missy masters now. They're not really masters, they're missy masters. We keep thinking in terms of them, and we forget Russia, we forget the Middle East, we forget Africa, we forget the Mediterranean area, we forget the Near East, we forget the People's Republic of China.
Yes.
We forget India and Pakistan, and those guys don't play this little effete game that we play, that we seem to have inherited from the Brits, who lost their huge empire 100 years ago, doing the exact same thing that we're doing now.
Yes.
Here in America. So I don't think that genetic engineering is going to do us in. I think with some sort of coherent direction rather than the type of emotive directions that get applied to everything now in America. It has its merits. Humans don't have evolution working on them anymore because Darwin's thing about survival of the fittest is not necessarily talking about the strongest, the fastest, the smartest. What he said what he meant when he said fittest is that if you take two organisms that are roughly the same, the fittest organism is going to be the one that has the most viable offspring on the next generation. And if you look at America right now, we've got a situation where the most viable entities are the ones that have the most children, who are not necessarily the ones that produce children that can make it in the real world, because we've set up a situation where you can be from a family where nobody in your generation preceding you has ever had a job or finished high school. Your grandparents have never finished high school but had a job. Your great-grandparents, your great-great, who are still alive and breathing, because the breeding is fast. Those are, in Darwinian terms, the most successful. So you need to think about that. That means that if you have your college degree, good job, you are conscientious, you think about stuff, you're trying to get it together, and you have 2 children. Well, somebody who has never had a job, dropped out of the 6th grade, has a low IQ, doesn't want to work, but has 14 children starting when she was 10 years old, and her children are starting at 10 years old. If they're female, they have 8, 9, 10, 14 children. And if they're male, to have offspring in the number of 45, 50, or 60, who will be just as bad. So that's not good. And you need genetic engineering to overcome the deleterious effects of that. They don't want to talk about it because it's not emotionally pleasing, but it is a bad thing. I had a family in my courtroom that we followed. I got some of them starting in 1994. One of them, who was the matriarch, was 57 in 1994. In 1996, she was 59. And 1 week when she was 59, she had 348 lineal descendants, and 2 weeks later, she had 358. By the time I retired in 2000, this same woman who's breathing has 3,400 plus lineal descendants.
Damn.
Okay. And you see that nobody in that family had graduated from high school but 2. They were girls who had been kidnapped by their fathers and taken to Chicago when their mothers were in the penitentiary. Those were the only 2 that had graduated from high school, and the only 2 out of the 3,400 that we could find that had ever had a job, and they weren't too smart. So I wound up with 120 plus of this one woman's descendants in my courtroom charged with felonies. Every single male in the family had done penitentiary time or been sentenced to a penitentiary, not just jail, by the time they were 23.
Wow.
And what started off was a 57-year-old woman. I had her second oldest child, who was 43 years old. The 43-year-old had, and get this, this is hard to fathom. The 43-year-old had a 34-year-old. She had 1 week shy of her 10th birthday, who was in my court. She had a 32-year-old son she had at 11, and a 31-year-old daughter she had at 12. The 34-year-old daughter of the 43-year-old, the granddaughter of the 57-year-old, this woman had a 21-year-old daughter, who was her second oldest child in my courtroom. And the 21-year-old daughter had an 11-year-old daughter pregnant with her second child. Now, you see, that kind of thing we don't talk about, and we refuse to make the hard case decisions to do something about it.
Like arrest the father of these. There's somebody.
Well, no, you can't arrest the fathers, because that's the old-timey explanation the feminists spread. What's going on is these women don't want to get married. And it's not like somebody promised them love and everything else. They have Like the woman, the 57-year-old, I asked her about it. She said, I didn't want no husband. I just wanted a check.
Oh, my God.
You know, with him, he can't do nothing for me except give me some chicken change. I want the check. So, yeah, I had all of these. I got 14 babies, and I had 9 different baby daddies. Couldn't stand any of them. 1 or 2 I liked better than the other, but I didn't like them much. So what you need a husband for? That's crazy. Why you want to sell yourself with a husband?
Wow.
So
she was a prostitute then?
No, just very typical of what got left in the inner cities after everybody moved out in the late 60s and early 70s, when there were some job opportunities, educational opportunities, vocational training opportunities that have evaporated. I'm black and I'm proud wearing a dark dashiki or a field jacket, boots and jeans, so you can do something in an afro, morphed into being super fly with some platform bell bottoms, wide collar shirt, pimp hat, and the pimp mobile, running around trying to glorify about moving grams.
That's
just a, how do you, instead of, are you ready for the revolution, brother? Let's get it on. You talk about, yeah, man, back it's all about pimping, man.
Yeah.
Got plenty ladies to be played, gold to be wore, and cheddar to be made. Yo, man.
That philosophy there was more destructive than an atomic bomb.
Yeah, and see, what has happened is the media, controlled by the rainbow crowd, has propagandized us over the last 50 years to glorify in dysfunction and to idolize what was once unacceptable.
Yes. Listen, the whole debate with the abortion, the homosexuality, it seems like the more twisted, Judge, our political leaders become, the more weird the legislation is being handed down to us.
Exactly. They're too busy trying to be house boys, bed wenches, and bed boys for this current Democratic Party to lead us. They won't talk it. I've been to meetings where the main problem that they've had with the local leadership is it pays no attention to them because they don't have the rainbow hue on them. Right. The local leadership relies on their votes to get in power, and then as soon as they get in power, tells them to go to hell, and then you'll get meetings and nobody wants to bring it up because they've been propagandized by the media to think that this rainbow crowd is the new majority. It's not.
Right.
It is a distinct minority, no greater than it has ever been, except that it now controls the media, who's falsely propagandizing you with the misinformation that they now have been accepted by everybody. It's their right to do what they want to do under the Constitution. It's their privilege to do what they want to do in their bedrooms, but the hell with them when they try to cram it in your living room.
Well, Judge, we had Dr. Randy Short on here tell us that out of 10 transsexual, like black transsexuals that get murdered, 10 transsexual women that gets murdered, or whatever, politically correct, and 8 or 7 of them are black men.
Okay, well, what are you calling transsexual women? See, that's the thing that I don't get these days when you got something with a dick and it's supposed to now be a woman.
Yes.
It's not. Or something with a pussy and it's now supposed to be a man and it's not.
Right.
I think the proper terminology is what the coroner would say when he's examining the body on the sled. It has a slab. You know, it's got a penis or it's got a vagina.
Right.
And it's 1 out of every 15 to 25 million. It might have both, but that isn't the case too much these days.
Yeah, but the hermaphrodites get no play. No one even talks about them. They're the real transsexuals if they're
Yeah, but see, they're so rare. It's almost, you know, some doctors go through their entire long careers and never see one.
Right.
I mean, it's a freak of nature, like a 2-headed snake or a 2-headed frog or something.
Yes, very rare.
You know, so that is not really a justification when you take an unfortunate freak of nature and you start making everything else commend itself to that accommodation. Now, it's like a ship in the middle of the Atlantic where there are ice flows and the water you could last in it for just minutes before you succumb to hypothermia.
Yes.
You've got thousands of people on this boat, and the thing is sinking. Do you sacrifice 3 or 4 people in one cabin or part of the ship to save the many, or do you let the whole damn thing sink and everybody drown or freeze because you don't have what it takes to sacrifice just 3 or 4 as collateral damage to save the many?
Right. Those are tough choices, and many people.
Well, it's not a tough choice. It's an automatic choice. Captain on a warship doesn't go agonize over that. Seal compartment 27B. We got to save the ship.
Yes.
The captain on a civilian commercial ocean liner doesn't have that choice. That he agonizes over. It's, you got to do it. You got to do it. Now, if we've got leadership that can't make these decisions, then we don't need them as leadership.
Yes. Yes. We don't.
Now, that is the problem we have. We have black, or they look black, elected officials. Some of them, like Kamala Harris, are fake Negroes, and all of them are playing house Negro, like Cory Booker, et al. And what winds up happening is their new masters are off in that rainbow thing, and most, if not all of them, are rainbow themselves. So they have abandoned their black concerns for a new one, the elective minority that can transcend the old race problem, which is they are bend over or spread for somebody with the same physical equipment they have.
Right.
Now, that's their business, but that means we have nobody representing us. Now, I was in Seattle this week, and we had a great thing up there where some conscientious people put together a grassroots thing to develop effective leadership. Now, they have a problem with the rainbow who's trying to come in and co-opt them by sponsoring everything and putting the money up.
Right.
But I had to go say, well, I see where this is going. Nobody's talked about the elephant or the bright glare in the room. I will. So I did. I just said, you got to deal with the fact that the rainbow crowd is trying to control even this. It's like Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter was founded by some lesbians. And if you read their 13-point platform, it right up front, first thing in there, it's talking about the need to push the gay thing. So when you talk about Black Lives Matter, you're thinking about something to deal with opposing or in opposition to police brutality. You're not. It's an organization whose intended purpose is to push the rainbow.
Wow. So there'll be no lives at the end of that rainbow.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, that's it. See, that's what's wrong with the rainbow. There's no pot of gold at the end of it. It's just oblivion.
Yes, just oblivion. With a crappy smell in the air.
And the interesting thing that strikes me is so full of self-hatred. They want to compare themselves to the black movement, but they don't. If you deal with the black movement, you understand that in the mid-'60s, we had I'm black and I'm proud. Why? Because we had shame, self-loathing, all sorts of negativity associated with being black because we got brought up looking at a media where everything that we saw was white. Was it so much we wanted to be white, or a subconscious switch over to that when what we were being propagandized with was something to make us want things that white people had? In any event, we hated self, but we developed I'm black and I'm proud. This group, do they have I am what I am and I'm proud? They claim it, great Pride Week and marches, but that's a lie because look who they so strongly support. Trannies who are so deeply ashamed of what they are that they're trying to get masquerade costumes or operations to become something they're not. Right. See, our classic example of that was Michael Jackson. This little colored boy who had a sick head was so ashamed of what he was that he had all of these surgeries trying to become white. He didn't suffer from any disease. There's some plastic surgeons and others who freely attest, I guess he didn't pay them or something, freely attest that he had laser treatment to destroy his melanin cells in his face so he could look white. And he had so many operations on his nose that it went necrotic and he had to have it amputated. If you look at some of the last videos, when he really gets to sweating, you can see the tape holding his fake nose on.
So South Park had it right when they did that little skit with...
Oh, yeah, he's a zombie. I've talked to people who briefly were security at Thousand. This old man looked like a zombie, like something came out of grave, had no nose.
He was Thriller for real.
Thriller for real. And then that thing with that long coarse hair, what happened with that is every few months they'd peel his scalp back and re-knot the Polynesian hair that had been threaded from inside the scalp out. So he'd look like what he looked like. So he's a sicko. But see, that's what the whole rainbow movement is about. They can't handle what they are. So instead of being proud of what they are, they want to be something else. And they claim we are prideful in our shame. I don't like being a man, but I got a penis. So I'm proud that I don't like being a man and want to be a woman. Or I'm proud that I don't like being a woman and I want to be a man. But you see, there's another thing about that too. And I'll be honest about it. We are being unfair to a certain segment of this homosexual community. See, there are two types of homosexuals. In essence, there are those who can't stand the opposite sex, and there are those who want to be the opposite sex.
Right.
And then with women, there is another thing. Women do not have to lose their femininity if they embrace, cry, hold hands with, show another friend girl when she's young how to put a tampon in, these kind of things. But men don't do that because that's not masculine.
No, you heard about Ellen DeGeneres coming out saying her stepdaddy molested her.
Oh, Ellen is a sicko. I met the woman. They asked me to save her show, help save her show because the ratings were so low out of Channel 4 up in New York, which at the time was the biggest American broadcast television network, or not network, but station in the country. And I was running 5.2, 6.1, stuff like that. She was running 0.47, 0.32. And they asked me to come on her show twice so that her ratings could be boosted. I did, and the ratings were boosted, but they were taping her out in California at the time in Los Angeles. And when I went over there, it was a miserable experience. The cameraman and everybody was sweating like pigs because she wanted the temperature close to 80 instead of 70-something. So it was unpleasant to work in there. She had the nastiest, vilest attitude. Was running around giving snap little orders to everybody. She jumped on me because I wasn't about to zip this robe up and wait 30 minutes in the heat. And I said, excuse me, who the hell are you trying to give me orders? I'm trying to help your funky behind out up in here. And, you know, she has been so bad about it that, she's been so poor about what she does that she's actually had some seasons where she had 3 separate shows that got canceled. They're all kind of the same, but the ratings are so low that she gets canceled and they turn right around and rewarded her as one of the poster child for the Children for the Rainbow. And they give her a new show. They let her be the MC for the Oscars twice. And in the 20-year period concerned, the 2 times she was MC, the Oscars had their 2 lowest ratings periods. So, they boost her and they keep boosting her and they make her a superstar, but her ratings are failing all the time.
Wow.
Right now, she's in danger of having the show canceled. But do they cancel her show? No, they're going to cancel the two Steve Harvey had, and his ratings are a lot higher.
Well, he's a black man, though. You know,
I know.
Always sacrifice for
and he plays their game, but he doesn't apparently bend over and drop his boxes.
Drop his trowels. I have a question for the chat room, Judge. Could you please ask Judge Joe, are we close to war with China and Russia? And if so,
no, don't buy that nonsense by this media. It's a lie and it's propaganda. First off, Russia and the United States are now very similar. They have a lot of Russians that live here. Go watch John Wick 3. And that's not an exaggeration. The Russians and the Americans are very closely intertwined economically. As far as China, hell, the only reason we aren't broke right now is as a country is because the Chinese control the stock exchanges of the world, and that means Wall Street as well. They secure the American dollar. They have more dollars in their treasury than ours has in our treasury. They rationalize the American financial situation. They have been what they call a sovereign investor. In other words, they aren't a bunch of individuals going around seeing what they can do individually to acquire stock interest and control of corporate entities. They have the humongous resources financially that they have. And this government goes in and buys stock. So oftentimes when the board of directors is about to do something reckless, they threaten the stockholders' derivative action and say, oh, wait a minute, you better check out who actually owns a good chunk of your stock.
Exactly. And
it's the People's Republic of China. So why would the Chinese go to war with us when they already control us, own us financially? And why would they jeopardize their financial investment?
Hey, caller, how you doing?
Very good, man. How y'all doing over there?
We're doing really good. You have a question for Judge?
So you're in Missouri, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Broadcasting live.
From 636. So here, I'm listening now. Judge Joe?
Yes, sir. I'm listening.
Much respect to you, brother.
Thank you, sir.
I learned a lot from all that you talk about, you know, from before I could remember.
That's awesome. That's what the show's about, giving that information.
So here, what my question is you talking about the resolution and basically how much China has its hand in the United States. Do you think that they want to make a trade deal with these people?
Look, what is actually going on is helpful to all parties. It goes to Trump's power base. And in China, they've got problems with certain oppositional factions. And it gives them the opportunity to take care of those inconvenient factions that causing trouble. So everybody's helped out at it. 100 years ago, they used to call it saber rattling.
Yes.
In other words, you go around posturing like they're those guys and us guys, and you get your local uninformed types, which are usually the large, huge majority of your people, to looking at things as them and us. So it's their team versus our team, the home team. So we dress up in grease paint that's the colors of our team, and we get out there with no shirts on, and it's 38 degrees and half freeze to death and wave flags about go guys go. It's a game. It's political science.
Right. Well, that was my question. I'm glad that you accepted my call and gave me an answer to my question. I'll definitely be calling in again.
Now, caller, where are you calling from?
Calling from Houston, Texas. This is Darrell Turner.
All right, Mr. Turner. Now check it out. Down in Houston, you guys have a large anti-vaccine crowd and a large anti-abortion crowd, like conservative folks.
Yes. Well, normally that's outside of the center. My bad.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. But do you?
So normally, like say, the city core is pretty not conservative, liberal.
Okay.
I guess that's how you will put it on the political spectrum. But surrounding that area is very conservative. So what were you saying?
Now, would you find the Planned Parenthood clinics in the city center, or would you find it in the outlying areas?
Actually, there's one down the street. I live in a suburb. I live in Spring. So they are sprinkled throughout the area. They're very inconspicuous, they're kind of in most of the strip centers, to where you wouldn't even really know what that was until, you got close up on it.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I appreciate your call. Thank you for calling in. If you have any other questions, feel free to call in.
I apologize for that, y'all. Have a great day.
You too, brother. Wow, that's what I found here in St. Louis is that oftentimes you're going to find the Planned Parenthood centers in the city itself, and like in the metropolitan area, not so much. And that's what was my question, Judge, about the eugenics program, because you kind of see a trend when you listen to the black stations. You'll hear the Planned Parenthoods, but if you was to bounce around, you don't hear them on other stations.
Well, abortion is a peculiar thing. See, I always divided abortion into two categories: prenatal and postnatal. You see, we always look at prenatal abortion, but we never talk about postnatal abortion. You know what else they call the postnatal abortion?
What?
The drive-by, the drug overdose, the stupidity, the dysfunctionality, the glorification of dysfunction, the being sent to the penitentiary and put on stasis. That's postnatal abortion.
Wow.
Yes, sir. In downtown Pacoima, police responding to neighbors' calls concerning a foul odor discovered a body. Apparently, the missing John Doe that preliminary reports indicate died of a drug overdose. He wasn't trying to die. He wasn't trying to get high. He was trying to die because he had no daylight at the end of his stomach. He took himself out. He knew the drugs were killing him. That's really why he was taking them. A young man, like you hear about Stomp, man, like, hey, man, he and 3-4 dudes, man, they was out on Willie's front porch, man, and John Ray, man, they was all up there smoking glass dick, man. All of a sudden, man, out of nowhere, man, they did a whole cold drive-by, man. Got 4 of them. That's just postnatal abortion.
So true.
And see, we want all of these kids dumped into a hellhole, shaken up, and maybe 1 or 2 of them will fall out, but the rest of them are just percolating in there until they get into postnatal abortion situations. That's also, you got to include capital punishment. Either you freeze them with the sleepy time drugs that they don't wake up from.
The heroin.
No, I'm talking about executions by lethal injection.
Sodium penetrate?
Yeah, that's postnatal abortion, when you do somebody in by lethal injection, or you can fry them the good old electric chair way, where they actually do fry. They sizzle like bacon. Or you can gas them like they do in California, or used to. A little cyanide whiff or 2, does wonders about aborting the person. The only problem is they've eaten a whole lot of food and caused a whole lot of misery way past that 9-month period.
Yes.
So it's a question of when do you let them go out by their own choice, after a lot of people got messed up, or when the woman just says, this is not cool. But then again, you think all of the ones with a bunch of kids, a bunch of baby daddies getting checks that aren't being good parents or can't be good parents because they don't know how.
Exactly.
And nobody wants to teach anybody. They'll teach them how to have gay sex. Maybe that is an alternative to abortion, and maybe that's trying to be pushed, anti-abortion to push population pressure so people say, well, turn gay so we don't have as many people. That's a safe thing to do.
That's a form of retro-abortion as well.
Well, I tell you what, when I was 19 years old, I was working doing a job to earn money at UCLA. I was working in the biology department. I was cleaning up these rat warrens. And it was fascinating. They had in one set of experiments, they had identified the rats by their place in the dominance hierarchy. And they started deliberately stressing these rats by crowding them and cutting back on the food. And starting at the bottom end of the dominance hierarchy, they started turning gay. So they came up with a conclusion that I haven't heard much about in the 50-some years since, that that rainbow thing is a population control device. Just like, the lemmings, when they get crowded up in Scandinavia, they jump off of the cliffs and they swim out to the ocean until they get so far they can't get back, and then they drown. And a few of them that didn't go, they repopulate for the lemmings, but every now and then they go jump in the ocean and drown as a population control device.
Right.
Maybe that's what it is.
That is exactly what it is, Judge. That's the only thing it could be at this point.
Well, yeah. But, bottom line is you're going to get gotten anyway. And people who get off into this protecting the fetus and all this stuff, they don't get it.
Right.
They've got a saying in biology that embryology recapitulates phylogeny. What does that mean? As the embryo grows, it recapitulates its evolutionary status. So you look at a human embryo, if you look at a dog embryo, a bear embryo, or a whale embryo, what you find is at one point it is being a fish. At one point it's being an amphibian. At one point, and it still has a big tail, it's being a reptile. And at some point it starts becoming mammalian, and then at some point it starts becoming primate. And it's only right before the birth process that it becomes identifiably human.
Correct.
So if you abort downstream, you're not getting a human. It's only a nascent human, but it's not human at that point. It may be an amphibian. It may be a fish. That's this embryology recapitulates phylogeny. In other words, you start off, you show your 1-cell, 2-cell, multicellular, low life form developing into something higher.
Right. And I want to go on the record and say, me personally, I'm staunchly anti-abortion. For myself personal, obviously, that's why I got 4 kids. But I am pro-abortion for women out there who this is their choice, whether they're raped, whether they just don't want to be a mom, whether they're young, whether they're old, whether they're whatever, that's their life and their decisions. I honestly believe the government shouldn't be in family matters as much as they are. I don't want to see some little girl out there fooling around in the back alley with some old boy drinking whiskey, trying to clothes hanger some baby that someone done knocked up. Then we can take care of this in a civil, humane way. Because of the fact that, here's the reality, boys and girls, not everybody's cut out to be a mom and dad. Not everybody's cut out to be a husband and wife. And if you're not cut out to be those things, you should not apply for those roles. You should not try to act your way into being a father, a mother, a husband, and wife. Because those are some very serious roles. If you don't take them seriously, it's just going to be a total disaster at the end of the day.
You're right. See, we have situations where we say men and women mother and father. But neither of those four things consist in essence of just the mechanical part of it. You may have a penis and you may have the correct amount of testosterone, but that doesn't make you a man because there's a behavioral component to it, just like it is to being a woman. You're not a mother nor a father just because you have sired a child or delivered a child. There is a behavioral component. And see, we want to take it on the cheap. And it's woman, man, small case W, small case M. It should be uppercase W, uppercase M that implies what you want to be, what your behavior is. See, that's what we miss out on.
Yes.
I was sitting in a pub I like to go to because it stays open late at night. We have these interesting discussions, so the management's cool. And we put together several tables one Tuesday night, and a lot of guys, white and black, sitting around talking about these things. And I can say this, it put the lie to this stuff that you hear propaganda-wise about how America is accepting this rainbow thing. They don't like it. But what was being expressed was, am I the only one up in here, or am I the only one here that thinks that this something's a piece of crap with this? Why am I? No, you're not. So, well, you guys all think like that. Hey, man, you thinking this way too? Well, man, why did it make us feel like we're freaks? Because we're apparently normal, man. Being normal is supposed to be a freak thing now. Jesus Christ, I hadn't considered that, but it sure seems to be the truth. And then we were having this kind of discussion. So every Tuesday, a bunch of men sit down and do it. So this chick walked in. She had a bald head. She had on a work shirt, plaid, and some Bill Farmer John overalls on and some work boots. And she sat down at the table and somebody said, excuse me, but this is men only. Well, I'm a man. Well, I declare I'm a man. That doesn't make you one. There's a lot more to it. Plus, you don't have the standard equipment anyway. That doesn't make you a man. Well, how about if I kick your ass? So everybody said, oh, God. So it got kind of funny. This big brother about 6'5" said, I'll take care of you. Want to whip me? Well, yeah, I think it. What you gonna do if I whip you? Well, that's not gonna happen. And then the bartender came over and said, gentlemen, ma'am, don't call me no ma'am. Well, ma'am, but anyway, I just want to say right over here around this table where you are, some grease got spilled and it's awful slippery and very easy for somebody to fall and hit their head on the floor just in case that happens.
You had his back.
Yeah, everybody's back. But see, what they don't realize is they're going to provoke a backlash, a bad backlash.
Yes.
They've got this thing called incel, and there's a bunch of little sick boys who've never had any nookie, and they've had the new changes have prevented them from getting nookie, so they hate girls. Now, this thing they had up in Toronto, where this guy plowed a van into a crowd and killed 11 people, apparently he was incel and was getting some vengeance against women. So that's a new thing coming about. Nobody wants to pay attention to it. They act like it doesn't happen. You go on Twitter and they subtly manipulate what you're doing. You get feeds or tweets from people that you think are part of the thread, but they aren't. They're out of context. Or like me, I don't even check the fresh tweets. I just get into the discussions because the fresh tweets, almost 30% of what they send me is in Arabic from the Middle East. You know,
you better watch out. They're going to have you on the terror watch list, Judge.
Yeah, what is this? You know, so it is what it is. And that I can't get a blue check, but, you know, I've jumped up so now they don't put the total number. They just put the number with the K in it, you know, which is cool, I guess, but they really try to wreck the message you have. And another thing you have to be careful of with Twitter, I like to draft the tweet in my notes on an iPhone and then send it so you can keep a record of what Twitter actually posts. And often I note that they will try to modify what I send.
What?
By doing a correction after you send it, but then just check it. You can erase the whole thing and send the correct one again. Now, I have done it when I'm just sitting around doing nothing at a meeting or something and I'm getting bored. I'll look at it and I'll tweet, but I always pause before I hit send, and on many occasions I've seen crucial words get modified in there, like they're changing the spelling or something.
Yes. And
I'll recorrect it, hold it, it'll change again, correct it again, and usually about a third time if they're going to do it, they'll stop, and then you send it, and then it'll post like you intended. But you have to be careful with them because they'll subtly modify what you say. They've got a thing right now where if you badmouth trannies, or what you call dead name them, in other words, if you say Bruce Jenner, they'll ban you from Twitter for life. You have to say Caitlyn. Or if it's a he that's trying to be a her and you call it a he, then they will ban you for that. So, I mean, it's just an unreality where the left, which used to be the side of the aisle that protected individual rights, free speech and such like, is becoming more authoritarian and Nazi-like than old-time writings. I mean, they're the ones where you hear the discussions of, we're tired of defendants having these rights, we need to know, or we're tired of men getting away with it because of the constitutional rights, it needs to be amended. What kind of fool talks like that except an emotive one who has no concept of where it all fits in?
Right. They're out to destroy us. Look, I mean, what you were saying about the Twitter thing, that made me think, well, what if the deal with Trump when he wrote, I had nothing to do with with Russia helping me win the election? What if Twitter somehow manipulated that tweet?
Well, yeah, but here's the other thing, Mike. But here's the other thing, too. What the hell did the Russians have to do with it? I sure as hell didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, and it didn't have a damn thing to do with the Russians. He's a miserable excuse for somebody trying to run stuff.
Exactly.
She's not fit. She's got anger management problems. She's a lesbian, and I didn't particularly want that running anything. And it's not time for a woman because we have too much emotive nonsense going on now that they've emasculated the country. We need to reimpose balance. So I'm not about to do anything to strike the balance down a little further.
You know, what about the Mueller thing? Do you think that he was intimidated to resign, or do you think that he knew that was a bullshit to begin with?
Well, some people who've listened to me long enough and said, Judge, you said that when Trump was running. And when he got elected, before he got sworn in, you said that he's going to give the Republicans everything they think they want on their dream list. And then he's going to have an excuse to fire them, force their resignations, or marginalize them so he can take power in his own hands. See, Trump is an unusual phenomenon. Most everybody we've had in office for decades has been somebody who is sitting on a throne with somebody standing behind the throne being kingmaker.
Right.
Trump is a kingmaker who's sitting on the throne. He's the billionaire who the rest of them have been toadying up to get money for their retirement plan. See, and by the way, it can go both ways. The richest person to sit as president is not Donald Trump. It was Barack Obama, a.k.a. Barry Soetoro, who inherited it from his filthy, super rich, one of the 10, 15 richest men on earth when he died, stepfather / adopted father, Lolo Soetoro.
Right. But he tries to hide his wealth, Judge.
Of course,
I'm just a little shoe shine.
He's a lying little sycophant for a lot of things, and he is a well-to-do somebody who got put in place. Who was president before him?
It was George Bush.
Okay, now, Do you think the two of them are different?
No, they're actually friends. They're in the oil and murder industry.
Not only that, you know, when you get these little snippets where George W. gives Michelle a piece of candy and they're grinning at each other. You know what the inside joke is?
What?
He's giving her what he used to give her husband when he was a grown man and her husband was a little kid hanging around the Bush household with Daddy Sotoro.
Oh my God.
See, I stumbled on a picture that's not on Google now. Maybe it is, but you perhaps get to page 14,000 or something, and I don't have time to do that anymore. But the picture was George W. Bush is sitting in a golf cart, standing on the grass next to another golf cart is Lolo Sotoro with a golf club, George Herbert Walker Bush with a golf club, and standing on the grass next to George W., who has his arm around him, is about a 7 or 8 year old Barack Obama, a.k.a. Barry Sotoro.
Wow.
So they've been long-term family friends. For most of his life, Obama has been a family friend of the Bushes.
Wow.
So
they're in the same bloodline as well. They have the same blood through the mom.
With one of the servants for the Bush Empire, that's Dick Cheney. They did a little DNA release, and it turns out these people are blood relatives. Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in America. Dick Cheney, one of the biggest right-wing clowns in America. The actor Brad Pitt, and Barack Obama. They're all DNA related.
Yep.
Or with the mother's side, not
the daddy. That's what everybody always forgets. They're like, no, that's impossible. When I try to tell people that on the streets, they look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, guys, you know, his mom is a human being as well. She has a bloodline. Look into it, and you'll see all of the angles connect. And then you'll finally be on the level. Well, Judge, I appreciate your time today. I'm so thankful you took the caller's question. You actually spend time with us and getting us pointed in the right direction. One last thing, and this is pertaining to education, and I've been wrestling with it myself a little bit. Do you think that evolution should be taught in schools, or do you think creationism should be taught in schools, or maybe a combination of the both?
Well, let me say this. I step on a lot of toes when I say superstition is something that ought to be reserved for the home unless you teach it as superstition. It's not improper to expose children to voodoo, hoodoo, and all sorts of animistic things as an interesting adjunct to where the world has been.
Right. I
remember I was quite fascinated when I was 5 years old to be in the Chicago Field Museum. And they had this hall where they had a horse exhibit. Starting at one end on the wall of this long hall was Ilhip's Dawn horse. It was about the size of a medium-sized dog, all right? And you went in progress, skeleton by skeleton, and they must have had about 50 of them on the wall, so there were no gaps. And you saw it develop into modern horse. That's evolution. When you talk about evolution, you talk about why do you keep needing flu shots? Because the flu
evolves. It mutates.
Yes, it does. That's evolution. So the pathogen changes. You talk about plants. Plants are human-controlled evolution when you use horticulture to develop new strains of plants, strawberries,
corn, wheat.
Yeah, all of that kind of stuff. That's evolution. So when you start wanting to teach somebody's superstition, you run into whose superstition do you teach?
Ouch.
Now, if you have a thing that is universal across all cultures. You have Islamic geneticists, you have Jewish geneticists, you have Christian geneticists, you have atheist and agnostic geneticists, you've got Hindu geneticists, you've got Zen Buddhist geneticists, and they all are pretty much in agreement as to the fundamental aspects of genetics and evolution. So what do? Which one of these superstitions or religions, depending upon what you want to call it, do you teach as an alternative? All of them, but that's in a comparative religion class, or just one of them? You see, you're talking sex education. They won't teach heterosexual sex education, but in California, in some counties now, they're teaching gay sex education and what to do if your parents won't let you in the 6th or 7th grade or 9th grade buy sex toys, how you can use cucumbers and bananas as substitutes.
That's just sick. I'm sorry.
If a boy is in the 4th grade, if 4th grade now, if a boy is interested in trying to be the recipient of anal sex, what lubricants can he use? How does Vaseline, or as they put it, hair conditioner, when mom and dad will never know, can be used, is a safe lubricant? You know, what are they teaching this to 4th graders for? They don't even teach them how to deal with sex between men and women.
Right. And we're going to go into them. What happens when it's dogs and cats?
If you're going to teach sex education, why do you cut out the overwhelming majority and you start teaching this
perversion?
Division, yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, it's deviant at best. It's a deviation from normal.
Yeah, I mean, they have their rights, but I mean, it's
Don't
like...
we have our rights as well?
Yeah, but hold on. It's like this. You have a right of free speech. And as it exists now, I guess you can walk into a room going, yeah, man, F this man, MF man, B's and H's man, bitches and hoes man, you know, like, hey, and use the N-word, but that's not polite in certain companies, you know?
Right. So
the point is your form of address needs to match the audience.
Yes.
If you're in a comedy zone situation, okay, fine, go for it. You know, if you're in a light-sided, then you don't do that. But that's the same thing with the other stuff. You know, you don't exclude one type of sex education in favor of another.
Especially one that's not even productive sexually reproducing.
Well, we may be doing a public service by letting them teach it, because that cuts down on the population, so you don't need to deal with abortion, either prenatal, where the woman decides it, or postnatal, where somebody doing a drive-by decides.
You know, one last question, Judge. Do you, the recent news with the military confirming the existence of UFOs, do you think that's a government laying the groundwork for a fake alien invasion? Kind of a loaded question.
Wait. Let's think about it. Why does it have to be an alien invasion? For instance, theoretically, it's possible right now to go through time, generally forward. But what if somebody in the future has perfected time travel and they come back to see what the hell we were up to that led to the mess that we left them to clean up?
Then they're going to try to fix it. But if they did,
it may not be E.T. It may be our descendants coming back to see what's going on. You know, like, I find it interesting that they had this so-called spike, fake or otherwise, in UFO sightings around Roswell at a time when the composite group was based there. It was a B-29 group that did what? They dropped the atomic bombs. So they were based there. Isn't that what you would go back to look at if you were a historian?
Absolutely.
So maybe it's not alien, it's just some of us from the future coming back through time travel. I mean, and it's a guarantee that there's other life out there in the universe.
Yes.
There are 200 billion stars in this galaxy, and there are uncounted billions of galaxies.
Right. And once we start looking at it like that, the whole race thing, the sex thing is so like minuscule. One day we will have to face the outside forces. If we don't stand united as one humanity, we're done.
Well, there are some interesting reasons why we haven't formally encountered ET type aliens. It's like, considering the limited amount of time that we have had an advanced civilization that might make us interesting enough for somebody with another advanced civilization to visit, the time lapse between when the signals revealing that would have left Earth and when some advanced civilization encountered those signals, we haven't had enough time yet.
Right. We're going to be the so-called Indians, and they will be Columbus and the conquistadors.
Maybe if we would do something about getting off this planet. Now, it sounds sci-fi-ish, but it's really necessary.
Yes.
There is Betelgeuse or Betelgeuse, a massive, supermassive red star that's about to go nova. It may have already gone, but by the time the radiation front gets here, it'll be too late, and that's when we would find out about it. We'd see it when we got hit by it. We'd have instances to go, oh, wow, we whoopee. And then there are asteroids and meteors that wiped out the dinosaurs. And then there are solar flares that could get intense and do a lot of damage. There are tsunamis and earthquakes and tornadoes. And there are hurricanes. And there are typhoons. There are all kinds of volcanoes and all kinds of stuff that can wipe us out. Mm-hmm. So to secure the future for humanity or our descendants or what we either devolve into or we decide to engineer, we need to be in more than one place. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
No, all the humans on one planet. I mean, we even got the nuclear ball of the sun that could pop at any moment.
Oh, yeah. Now, it's not likely that the Russians and the Chinese and the Americans are going to have it. We're too economically dependent, so it's sort of like you put in all this trouble to acquire these investments. You want to go blow it up? No. But what does happen is we have situations where we have proxies who fight it out, and we've got crazies that we let get nukes. They might start something, but I don't think they have the capacity to do a worldwide conflagration like the last group operating under MAD, mutually assured destruction, kept everything peaceful. And by the way, when you start talking about gun control, you need to consider the same elements that nation states consider when they face off against each other. You don't ensure peace when you are weak and unarmed. You ensure peace when you can face some severe consequences.
Yes. Nobody wants to get damaged. Everyone loses in war. I mean, there is a victor, but the victor comes with sacrificing loved ones and dear friends during the battle.
Yeah. So think about all of our so-called colored leadership up in D.C. that wants to disarm us in the face of racist bigots, white supremacists who are arming to the teeth.
Right. That is like group suicide. That's just hard onto the trains.
Okay, now, you've seen John Wick 3, right?
Not yet.
Well, see it. It's very interesting. I loved it. I've seen it 3 times, going to see it the 4th time this evening. Now, the gunplay they do in that, you can also watch videos where they have Keanu Reeves, Halle Berry, that brother who is the concierge in the hotel, And the director, who, by the way, is an unusual type to be a director. He started off as Keanu Reeves' stunt double in Matrix, but now he's the director. All of them are taking training at this range out in California. So they really can do the stuff they're doing in the movies in real life. Also, who's got videos out is good brother Isaiah Washington, who's training at the same range, doing the same kind of stuff. So the type of shooting you see in John Wick, there are really people who can do that. I can. I've trained long enough, practiced for years and years, but most people don't get that. So while we're allotted out playing with bling, there are some people that are perfecting their skills and abilities to be able to do just what you see in John Wick. So what are you going to do about them if it hits the fan?
Most people are going to die when it hits the fan, Judge. They're not prepared. They don't have iodine. They don't have water. They don't have self.
No. Before it even gets to the point of you running out of food, I'm just talking about it doesn't have to be an apocalypse thing.
Oh.
Just what happens if the supremacists get unruly?
Well, there'll be a lot of headlines.
Yeah. Because what are black folk gonna do? Yeah, man, I got my Glock, man, and he shoots it sideways with one hand.
Well, I know.
You got somebody else that'll put 5 bullets in him before he gets it up to shoot it sideways, and what he may hit shooting back is probably got on Kevlar.
Exactly. This, and you know what? The reason why they do that, Judge, is because of the damn record labels and those videos and the movies where the gangsters always doing that crazy shit. And the sad thing about it is, really, you should never ever draw your weapon unless you're prepared to make a vicious point. Meaning, it's not for play. You don't make selfies with it. You should train with it at least at the bare minimum twice every 7 days. This 2 times a week. Go out to the range, go out to the woods. At least fire off 9-10 magazines. All right, and actually get proficient, because your gun, especially when you're shooting a pistol, there's a feeling to it. You can use your sights, obviously, but when you're shooting at different ranges and you don't have time to range it all in, you kind of gotta. You just got to know your weapon, and every weapon's different. And please, for God's sakes, hold it properly, and make sure your damn thumb's not in the slide of the gun. You only do it once.
How much bling? How many shoes have you bought, and you don't have a military grade pistol, an M4 clone, or a 12 gauge Mossberg, or Winchester, or Remington shotgun, or Benelli, or FN something or another that you've got? How much ammunition do you have stockpiled? How much have you spent on your budget to learn how to shoot? See?
Hold on, this is a question from the chat room from Johnny Watkins. What about us African Americans who live in the country, out in the boonies? Well, then you're just like me, bud. You take your ass down to the woods and you shoot. You fucking learn to hunt, you learn to fish, you learn to live off the fucking land. Because, there's more concerns than just the nuclear bombs. What happens when we have a major strike in this country and say truckers aren't actually delivering? Because we all live in a just-in-time delivery system, meaning that all the suckers and snack cakes and everything in your local convenience stores are delivered daily, just in time before they don't run out on the shelf. Same thing's true with Walmart and your Kmart's and all your other big chain stores. What ultimately is what I believe the judge and myself is saying: stop relying on everybody else and rely on yourself. Learn. There's manuals out here. You can get a PDF file right now, the Army field training manuals. Yes, it may be from the 60s, but it's still pertinent, truthful information that will work back then and will work today. It's timeless information. Educate your mind. Stop looking at the damn Kardashian bullshit. Stop looking at all the drama. This person's getting divorced. That person's getting married. That person's having, who cares about that? Learn about, like Mr. Johnny out there in the country. You got plants out there in the woods that you can use for painkiller. It's called wild lettuce. If you had, let's say, blood sugar issues, you can use dandelions. You can eat the roots in the winter, make a nice little tea. You can eat the leaves and the plant itself during the summer. There's also another plant that's an antiseptic. It kind of is like a milkweed plant. You strain off the milkweed, boil it. You can put it on your cuts and abrasions so you don't get infected. You have to learn to live off the land, because every pill you take, I want you to remember this, every pill you take was manufactured from some resource on the planet Earth. It did not come from outer space. It did not just magically appear out of nowhere. So everything that you need to be healthy and well is literally in your backyard. If you choose to learn from the older folks, learn from reading, and learn from experimentation yourself. I'm not trying to give you medical advice, because I know that's totally illegal. I'm not a doctor. I want to clarify that. I'm just giving you some common survival tactics and skills that may be necessary in your application. Hopefully that's a good enough legal disclaimer there, Judge.
All right.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap her on down. Once again, thank you, Judge, so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you on, because you talk real good sense. Sensible. You know, you're not too far this way, not too far that way. And what you said about education was right on. We have to get away from the superstition, folks, and we have to get based into science to a degree to be competitive when it comes to manufacturing advanced weaponry. I'm saying keep your religion, keep your spirituality, but in the meantime, we also got to recognize the world has evolved. We're in that weird transition that they did back in the day when they, you know what, guys, we got to give up Zeus, we got to give up Hades and Poseidon, you know, and then they had to change to something else. So we're at that position again. And if we don't change, I'm fearful we will descend into a third world situation here in these United States after it's broken up. So, you have anything else to say, Judge?
Hey, man, power to the people. Everybody keep on striving. It can be done. It just takes courage, bravery, and dedication. It takes a cause. And if you have a cause, you have a purpose. And if you have a purpose, you're not in the situation of ever finding there's no daylight at the end of your tunnel.
Yes. That's what the hub's all about. I'm still working on the hub, yeah. We are going to buy that.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Judge.
Okay. You have a good one.
You too. Bye. Hold on. Let me. Yes. What a powerful broadcast. Today's date, May 31st, 2019, the year of our Lord. This has been TPIM SR Live. I'm your host, True Power's Mind, and this is your show. As always, live your life of integrity without hate, envy, or greed. And as always, brothers and sisters, let's try to be kinder to each other. Peace and power. I'm out.